The great thing about sound is that it really permeates all the levels and all the layers. So it moves into our physical bodies, into the non-physical, and it can transport these vibrations and frequencies and light codes and keys deep into where they are needed to either initiate a healing or a transformation, a shift, an activation. And if you break it down, you could say a certain frequency or vibration and an intention equals the opportunity to heal.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Wetzel, and I'm so excited to have Marysol Ximenez Carrillo with me. And Marysol I'm trying to give an explanation of what you do, but basically you're an intuitive sound healer, an energy channel, and you have over 20 years of singing experience, and you also put that into play with your healing ability. So can you give us just a little explanation of what you do?
Yes. So thank you so much for having me, Lisa. And as you said, I'm a singer and an energy channel and an intuitive sound healer. So I work in the field of energy healing and I combine it with my voice. So as a singer, I've always loved to experiment with sound and what the voice can do. So I sing intuitively for people in one-on-ones or in groups. And what I sing, the intuitive light language and the sounds, they're being filled by basically light codes and light information and that which is meant to come through to the individual or the group to support the process that's happening in that moment.
Mm-hmm. And so the reason why I asked Marysol to be with us today is because I had an amazing session with Marysol. And I want all of you guys to know that when we talk about sound healing, we all have the idea of maybe tuning forks or singing bowls or drums and that vibrational tools that we use. And when Marysol was sharing with me that she was a singer, I didn't fully understand how she used her voice as a vibrational frequency tool to heal until I had the experience with her. And I do want you guys to know that it was amazing, amazing. And Marysol has one of the most beautiful angelic voices that I honestly think that I've ever heard. And I don't know if anybody wants to argue with me on that one, but I'll fight for it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And so, but the thing about it is not only does she have this beautiful voice, but it's the frequency and it's the intention that's behind it that creates the healing. And that's really what we want to talk about today and how this sound healing actually works. So can you kind of explain the concept of sound healing and the vibrational tools and how it's used to heal?
Yes. So vibration and frequency, I believe, is going to serve us very well in the years to come as well. And I think it's on the rise to be more widely accepted and that people are curious about what it truly is. And the great thing about sound is that it really permeates all the levels and all the layers. So it moves into our physical bodies, into the non-physical, and it can transport these vibrations and frequencies and light codes and keys deep into where they are needed to either initiate a healing or a transformation, a shift, an activation. And if you break it down, you could say a certain frequency or vibration and an intention equals the opportunity to heal. So we can truly use sound for anything, and it will resonate on the cellular level, but also on the spiritual level. So it really surpasses time and space. That's what I find. And it works beautifully in the quantum space. So when we move beyond this realm also in this work and work with other lifetimes, for example, the sound can actually move past that time and space perception that we have and reach the field in a depth that to me just keeps astounding me. And I am in awe of what that can do. And sound, of course, it can touch our hearts in many different ways. So it's very heart opening. And sound has the ability to take us on journeys and to reconnect us to ourselves, to our core, and can release emotions that may be stuck in our bodies on any level. So I find it can serve us in many, many different ways.
Mm-hmm. Well, you just gave us a beautiful explanation. And so this may be a repeating question, but when you're doing a session with somebody, how do you use your voice to assist in the healing process?
I use it very intuitively. So depending on what somebody comes to me for, I usually embed a cosmic journey into the session. So I'm very visual. When I close my eyes, I receive very clear guidance through visuals. It's like a video being shown to me. And I'm not a medical intuitive, but in the way that some medical intuitives describe looking into the body, I can see into the energy field. So I'm not only shown the journey to take someone on, but I see the movement of the energy in that person. So depending on what that person needs and depending on the journey I take them through and into, I will use my voice to sing intuitively, as I've mentioned, either with just sounds or light language. And so if, for instance, something is being cleared, I will then sing for a few minutes, which will then assist that clearing and really move to where it is needed. Or if I do a sacred voice activation for someone to reclaim their sacred voice and come back to the essence that wants to move through us all when we speak or sing, then I'll use my voice to intuitively sing and bring forth what basically the higher self of that person is giving me in that moment, and I will transform it into sound that will come through and then reach you on that level where you can receive the activation or whatever it is that you need in that moment.
Okay, so what kind of things that do you use this for? So, for example, I have a lot of people that I do sessions with that have past life memories. They need to break these old belief systems, or they may need to let go of old past karmic patterns, or they may have physical issues. Maybe they're having achy knees, achy joints, or they're having kidney issues, or something that's happening to them on the physical basis. So what types of things can you assist with in healing, and how can it help in those things?
So, of course, medical disclaimer, I'm not a medical practitioner. This is all work in the energy field. But so what I do is, if there's a certain issue, you can connect to the quantum space, other lifetimes, and tune into those moments and points in that space that are connected to a certain issue. So you can then specifically go into that and clear what needs to be cleared concerning that issue. And I'll see the energy move and I'll feel how long it takes. So also the singing will depend on how long that clearing takes, and I'll know when to bring it to a close. And so that's the work is actually in the quantum space. So if you know anything about quantum physics, that is actually how it works. I hope that makes sense. That was a little bit twisted, but
yeah. Well, we're going to jump into the quantum field in just a minute, but to get some more information because it's so overwhelming. But I think I guess I want to kind of dig into this a little bit more because I want to kind of share an experience that I had. But first of all, we are all trying to, well, probably everybody that's listening to us, I'm not going to say we're all trying to, but a lot of us that are in this world are trying to let go of these old belief systems and these old karmic patterns, that we've lived through lifetimes with, that were really on earth at this particular time to break. And so I can bring up, okay, well, this is what happened and this is the belief system, but you need to break it. And then people always ask me, well, how do I do that? And so my answer always is, well, let's see, there's vibrational healing is a great tool. So when you're working on somebody, do you specifically need to know what the problem is? Or can you just pick up on that there's some kind of an energy blockage, there's something that's a little bit out of balance? So how does that work for you?
So I don't necessarily need to know. I mean, sometimes it helps, and it depends. Some people come to me with very specific needs and issues that they would like to address. But sometimes people come and say, I don't really want to say much. I just want to see what you get from me and what journey you take me on. And so then I'm guided into that journey. But of course, something that I find very important, especially concerning belief systems. Of course, there's a lot we can do in this space to clear things and to activate and to remember. But to me, it's also really important to help people to get back to that space of taking responsibility for themselves. So, of course, if we have had a belief system that's been in place for a very long time, we're also going to need some practice in our everyday lives to shift. So, and that is supported by the shift in the quantum space, in the energetic field. But to then have the courage to implement that in our everyday lives and practice it. So I also assist people in having access once again to their heart space, finding that courage to step into the world as they are, to, if the issue is setting boundaries, giving tools on how to do that. And all these things that come together. So how to actually then practically do these things in our everyday lives, because that's what it comes down to. How do we better our lives? How do we make our lives happier and easier and access more of that flow state? So I think that's always the importance of bringing both worlds together. So I do my best to bring that together.
Yeah. Well, I also want to emphasize, because what you're talking about doing is that you can clear the space, but especially with belief systems, you also kind of have to deprogram that behavior a little bit. So, okay, I'm not holding on to the belief system like I was, but I have to retrain and condition my physical presence not to react in that old way. So I call it deprogramming. It's really a form of deprogramming to me. I want to share an experience that I had with Marysol. And she has a couple of other people that I had this experience with, that they all work together, but Marysol also works independently as well. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So this just happened to be that there were two other people that were assisting. But the reason why I had my session with Marysol is because I have had stomach digestive issues for years and years and years and years, like since I was a kid. And I've done it all. I mean, I've gone to doctors, I've done everything, and nobody can figure out what the problem is. So this situation came up and I was like, okay, well, let's try it one more time, because it actually seems like it's getting a little bit worse. And so Marysol did an extensive amount of work on basically, it's more or less my solar plexus and the sacral chakra that I could feel. But I could also feel that when she was working on me, that area was opening up. And it was almost like I felt like a hollow tube, which was opening up the flow of energy that's going through that area. So I recognized it immediately. But of course, it also depends on how in tune with your body you are to be able to feel this energy work. Mm-hmm. But that was probably about 3 weeks ago that we did that session. And I had the most interesting experience last night, as a matter of fact. And what came up to me was all of the miscarriages I've had, all of the births that I had that maybe not been successful, all of these things that had to do with pregnancy and all these past lives. And I had hundreds of them. Mm-hmm. And it was like I've seen glimpses of this throughout the years, probably in the last 10 years, I've known that there was something to do. I never got pregnant. And so I know that it all has to do with some stuff that's all in there. And I've seen the glimpses of giving birth and having stillborns and all of that stuff, but I never really understood how to get rid of it. And I never actually really addressed it because I just kind of thought, well, it's okay. It's a past life. I never really thought about how it was affecting me until it wasn't affecting me anymore. And last night I had this huge cleansing of seeing these experiences one after another and one after another and one after another. And I feel very strongly that the energy work that you did and the others that were helping you opened up that energy cycle. Mm-hmm. So that old past life energy of all those experiences could clear. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that's going to be a big deal because it's also going to affect me health-wise. Emotionally, health-wise, understanding more of things like why I never got pregnant, understanding why I wasn't meant to get pregnant in this lifetime. It wasn't my journey. I've had enough children in the past. Mm-hmm. It wasn't my time in this lifetime. But all of these different things that I have experienced through this lifetime, I feel very certain that the work that you did helped clear that out. But I also want to emphasize with people, because a lot of times people don't know how energy healing works, and that it is not always a instant fix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what happens is that, and now correct me if I'm wrong, the energy that you put in by your singing and the beautiful light language and the different things that you do, it comes in and it adjusts the energy that's in that area. Mm-hmm. But then the body has to acclimate to it. Mm-hmm. So yes. Do you want to explain how this works?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that beautiful story. I didn't know that yet, and that's really beautiful and touches me deeply. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
And thank you for raising that important issue that we never know how it's going to play out in our physical world here. Some things do take time, and that there's always the path of the individual connected to how long it may take and what is necessary for a shift or a healing to take place. So I don't actually do anything. I serve as a channel, and that person or the group will receive exactly what is needed at that moment, what serves that person's journey at that moment for the next level or the next step. So that's what I meant by saying we all need to take responsibility for our journey and our path and how we move about the world in our everyday lives. And because if you go to seminars and have sessions, but you don't implement any of it into your daily life, it's not going to get you so far. I mean, it may shift little things here or there, but you still need to begin to embody that which has shifted or which has inspired you. And I can only speak for myself on my journey. That has been a crucial point to actively bring it into my daily life. And what you said, some things may take a bit of time. There may have been an energy shift in the energy body, but the physical body may take some time to recalibrate and to adjust and to align. And sometimes another level is necessary. So that's an important part for my work, that I need to truly detach from the outcome to be the purest channel that I can be, to make sure that that can come through what is meant to come through without me getting in the way.
Yeah. And without me as the recipient getting in the way. Mm-hmm. And again, we're so programmed to believe instant gratification. Yeah. And we don't really understand that when we're working on this vibrational frequency on something that is so deep, that what it's actually doing is it's rebalancing the body to heal itself and to function in its most natural state. And a lot of times we don't really understand that belief systems or experiences block the natural flow of the vibration and the frequency in our physical bodies. And what your job is to rebalance those imbalances. Is that right?
Yes, that is part of it. Yeah. And as I've said, a huge part for me is because I've always been of the heart. You know, I'm just a heart person, and I love to help people to bring them to a place where they can remember who they truly are beneath all those layers of whatever it may be. As you said, belief systems, trauma, past lives things, anything at all that may be weighing you down. At our core, we are whole. We are those beautiful beings that are pure and whole and can't be broken. So I love helping people to reconnect to that part that lies beneath all of those layers, and to feel once again how it is to really be in your heart, because a lot of people have forgotten how that feels. And once you feel what that's like and to reconnect, then that changes a lot. And to find that path of coming back to honoring yourself. I mean, that's been a huge thing for me, coming from depression and self-hatred and all of that. It's been huge. Yeah. And so, of course, I believe that everything that we experience is meant to show us something. So someone that is a workaholic and never gets rest may experience a physical illness or something, or break a leg or whatever it may be, to slow that person down. So of course I can assist with some things, but if that person keeps running through life, there will probably another incident that will slow them down once again. So that's the balance of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's jump back to the quantum field. Mm-hmm. This thing that is so hard to understand and comprehend. So how does your intuitive singing interact with the quantum field? Can you give an explanation about that?
Yes, I'll do my best. Okay. And as you said, it really is that way. Like when I close my eyes and what I see, I feel like there are no words to really describe it. So sometimes I struggle to put it into words that describes it best. But the quantum space is the field of all that is, of infinite potentiality, and it's outside of space and time. So we as humans, we have a linear thinking mind. So we perceive time as having the past, the now moment, and a future. That's how we perceive time on this earth. But outside of this earth plane, this time construct doesn't exist. So everything happens at the same time. So when you move into that space that is in fact timeless, that is why it is easy, relatively easy, to access these points in that field that are then connected to other lifetimes or wherever you would like to journey. And so I perceive that field as, how do I say, it's just vast and beautiful and expanded and so intelligent that if you let yourself be guided by this intelligence and beauty and all that it holds, this divine space, that it just grants us access to a whole nother level of being and experiencing our own way of being and existence.
Okay, I'm gonna quiz you because the whole quantum thing is, it's so huge and it's so hard to really process in our simple minds. And so when you're talking about going into the quantum field, and whatever you're doing in the quantum field affects me on the earth plane in this dimension, how does it come from the quantum back to me?
Well, everything's connected. Everything's connected. So even as we are here in our human bodies, we are not fully incarnated in that sense. We always have our higher self, or whatever you'd like to call it, future self, oversoul, that part of us that is always in the non-physical. So that part is always in that quantum space, in that realm of existence. So we are always connected. So if I receive something for someone, I receive it through my higher self, through my channel, through the quantum space, from that other person's higher self, team and spirit, whoever may be present. So it moves through the quantum space. And since we're connected, there's really no separation. And then, as you say, it needs the time to then move into the physical body in whatever way it chooses to do in that moment. But I think it's connected in a way that it is very hard for our brains to comprehend.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt it is.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, we can only comprehend what we've experienced.
Mm.
And so it's hard to be able to explain it or comprehend it because we don't know the mechanics of it.
Yes.
Literally. But thank you for the explanation. It was perfect. Thank you.
And maybe if I can add one more thing.
Okay.
It's like, if you connect to a loved one on the other side, some people have very profound experiences that can't be questioned because there's just no doubt of something that has come through. So there are times when that really comes into our physical reality. I've had that happen, and it shows us that the veil is actually not as far away or thick as some people may think. And in fact, it is getting thinner.
Yes,
so it's all connected. It's all woven together. So if we say, oh, when I die, I'll be up there. No, it's right here, but on a different level, in a different realm. So it's all far more interconnected than we think.
Yeah, I agree. And this is happening rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfolding before our very eyes, especially at this time right now.
Yes.
So again, thank you for sharing that. Again, because that to me, this is where we're moving in the fifth dimension, mm-hmm. that fifth dimension of understanding of how all of this is working and how we're going to be maneuvering through that. Mm-hmm. So already, I think that Marysol is already a fifth dimensional being. So thank you for being on Earth at this particular time to help us all through this.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah. So do you call what you do like a form of light language, or is it specifically vibrational? I'm trying to segue into the light language and how you use it, but how you use your voice within the light language.
I do use light language, yes. Sometimes spoken or with my hands, but mostly sung. So, and light language is a cosmic language. It's received through the heart and speaks directly to the soul. So the beauty of it is that the mind doesn't really know what to do with it. It doesn't understand it. So it's a vibration. It's a frequency. So it's something that can be filled with that which is meant to come through. And as it is intuitive, it serves as that perfect vehicle to carry, in my case, the sound into the body physically and non-physically. And it was actually a really, really beautiful moment for me when I discovered it, because when I started singing light language, I didn't know that existed. Like, I had never heard of it. And transitioning from my theater work for over 20 years, where everything is rehearsed and practiced, into using sound in this way, I really wanted to find something that I could use intuitively. And I had been singing sound and mantras, but I kind of felt like there was something else I needed. And then one day it just came through and it felt so natural. And it just opened up doors for me because it's so easy to use and so effective.
Yeah. So, okay. So what is the difference in, like, when we talk about light language, we usually hear clickings and cause and keys and all these different, they're usually like words. But what you did for me, it was your voice singing. Mm-hmm. So what is the difference between the way that you use your voice to sing sounds, song, I'm going to say sing the song, and then what the stereotypical description of light language is? Mm-hmm.
So, of course, it'll sound different if someone speaks it, and it's unique for every light language channel. So some may sound similar, but there are very different ways of using it and bringing it through. So as you've described, there are channels that sound as you've just gave an
poorly
idea
described.
But that's correct. And then others may sound completely different. So, but in the end, it is always that intuitive, following intuitively the sounds that want to come out. And I think because I sing and I always sing through my heart, there's a softness to it. There's a flow to it, I would say. Like there's no, it's not like harsh in the sense that it's cut off. There's a flow to it. And it may vary in expression and in volume depending if something is activated or cleared. Sometimes if there's something dense to move through, I'll feel my whole body singing through that energy. my voice may even crack because I'm singing through those emotions, and I can really feel how it's moving through that. So it's really interesting how the dynamics may change and the way the sound comes through, and then shift back to something very gentle. So that really changes depending on what comes through.
Yeah, yeah. And we're going to ask Marysol to do an example at the end of this interview so that you guys can really get an understanding of what I'm raving about here. So how do you feel that light language is going to affect all of us on the personal level, but not only each one of us individually, but as the whole collective?
I think it's an amazing tool. And I mean, as you can tell, more and more people are using it. Many people are speaking about it. And I think it's an incredible tool because of what I mentioned earlier, because we as humans, we can get lost in our minds so easily, in the thoughts that just keep looping and driving us insane at times. You know, our minds have become very strong, and sometimes in a not very pleasant way. So light language has that ability to take us out of our minds, because in order to have something flow intuitively, we need to connect. And when we connect, when we slow our breath down a bit, when we sink into our body, then we move from the state of being in our mind into the space of our heart. And so that is necessary to then receive what we would like to bring through. And we can use light language for ourselves. Everybody can do it. Yeah. And so the process that is needed for it is actually that access point to everything that follows. So I think it's a great tool to bring us back to a deeper connection and to using our intuition and to be intuitive again.
Yeah. So, and because a lot of people don't know, I mean, they think that it just comes naturally and it just starts happening just like any other intuitive gift, like being psychic or a medium or whatever. But light language can actually be taught. Isn't that right?
Yes. It can happen that it just comes out, and it can be taught. And although taught is not the right word, helping people remember or gaining access, because you don't need to learn it. You just need to have a bit of courage to go for it.
Yeah.
So I've experienced people, and of course, because at first you feel really weird, you know, and you might be shy and you're like, oh God, I'm gonna look like an idiot, you know, and it's really hard to allow yourself to do that. But I've also experienced people where there was so much here that wanted to come out, and they said, oh, I can't do this. Oh no, it's too hard. And all of a sudden they would start, and they kept going for like 5 minutes. Nobody expected that. It just broke out and it just flowed. And with other people, it's just a small sound that starts. So there are so many ways to initiate it. And that's what can be done, of course, to help someone find an entrance point to using light language. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay. So, and one last thing on light language, we're going to move on to a little bit more stuff, but I just want to make sure that everyone understands how powerful light language is and that it's accessible to all of us. And so where does light language come from, in your opinion? Because a lot of people have, they tie it directly to the galactic beings. So is that like the only source of where the light language comes from, or do you see it from a little different perspective?
That's a really good question. I've never been asked that question. I do believe that it comes from our galactic family, our star family, but I've also learned that the more we think we know, the less we know. So I think that all that we use in this beautiful, vast space may have origins that go far more or further back than we may think. So I'm always careful to saying it comes from here and that's it, because in the end, what do we truly know? That which we experience. So yes, I experience it coming from star beings, from my star family. I experience different frequencies in the light language depending on who I connect with. But I can absolutely imagine that there's even a deeper truth to it, and that who knows how far it goes back. So I'm open to experiencing all of it.
Yeah. And I think I don't think that we should limit it just to the galactic beings, because it also they got it from somewhere.
Absolutely.
Language comes from, and if you start really looking at indigenous languages, if you really start thinking about how some of these words are broken down, they're kind of similar to the same sounds that we make when we do light language.
Yeah.
So again, where did they get their words?
I mean, it all comes from all that is. Source in the end moves through everything. So where's the beginning and where's the end,
Yeah. Just something to throw out there for contemplation. Stir up the subject. So you have mentioned a number of times about coming back to the truth of who we are and getting back to that remembering is what you said. So why do you think it's important for us to remember who we are?
Because that's where our power lies. And I mean power in the most positive way. Because I do believe that we are creators and that we have the ability to create a beautiful community and beautiful lives, but we've forgotten that. So we're so programmed by whatever it is that we may be experiencing as children, we're being programmed till the age of 7. So depending on what you've experienced, that's going to be a program that's running. So, what I had, I thought I could never be good enough. It would just never be enough. I would constantly put myself down. So how am I going to create the life that I desire if deep down I don't even feel worthy of it? And I don't think it's possible for me anyway. Why even try? So how am I going to create from that space? But in the process, and I mean, this process for me has been over 20 years now. I mean, my depression was in my teens, early 20s. Now I'm in my early 40s. And coming to my own remembrance of who I actually am. And of course, I still have my issues and things to move through and 3D life and all of that. But I'm coming back to myself more and more and more and more. And so the more I do that, the easier life becomes. And that doesn't mean there are no challenges, but also the way I move through the challenges. And just showing up as who I really am. And then that also attracts to me more of that which is in alignment with me vibrationally. Yeah. So I do think that's a core point of our lives, to remember who we are.
Yeah, and it's really hard for people to understand that or grasp that concept.
Yeah.
It's almost as hard as understanding quantum physics. It's that because we're so programmed that we're supposed to live in everybody else's image and we have to act a certain way to please everybody else and all that it really gets hard to have the idea of letting go of all of that and being able to live more intuitively and getting in that flow, because we're losing control, we're actually gaining control. Yeah. But, in my opinion, I think we're, because somebody else is controlling us when we're making choices and decisions from the way that belief systems have been put on us. We're living great-great-great-grandfathers' viewpoint, or wherever it is not really the truth of who we are. And so when we break down all of these old ways of being and we really get back into our heart, then that's the freedom. But it's so, I can't tell you how many conversations I have with people that are just like, but I can't let go. Yeah. How am I going to move forward without having control over my job or finances or these things that have been so ingrained in us? So how do you deal with people that feel fearful of letting go of these old things?
And it's natural, it can be really scary. Start with the small things. Doesn't mean you have to change your life overnight. Start with the things that feel doable in small steps. I mean, if I think about my journey, it hasn't been one big jump. It's a series of many small steps that I've taken. And then one day I look back and I go, wow, that's really a big change, but I know what it took to get there. Yeah. And so what can you change? The little things. For example, if you put yourself down a lot, start by noticing during the day when you put yourself down and see if you can cut yourself some slack and go a little bit easier on yourself. Do you really need to judge yourself that harshly? Just become aware of it. I think that's always a good point, to start becoming aware of things. Yeah. Because when we're aware of them, then we can begin to shift them in whatever way may serve us. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what I say. It's the little choices and decisions. It's the little things that you catch when all of a sudden you're getting a knot in your stomach or your heart starts tightening up. Wait a minute, what just happened and why?
Yeah.
And it's a little bit at a time. And just like you said, you can't just jump in and, oh, today's going to be a new day. I'm going to get rid of everything. And this is the life. It doesn't work that way. It's a gradual process. We couldn't handle it if everything was ripped out at one time. We have to do it this way.
That's true.
So when we're talking about self-love, and just like you said, so many of us, we don't really recognize that we don't fully love ourselves. And moving into this new way of being, what my guides say is the Akashic records are always about loving yourself. And you have to love yourself first in order to be able to understand how to move forward in this great, grand, beautiful way so that you can see more clearly. Because if I don't see myself in this beautiful way of being, then how can I see anything that's outside of me in that perfection? Yes. If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
It's always going to be filtered if I don't see myself fully and complete in some way. So how can you give our listeners, watchers, any practical tools to kind of help overcome these limiting beliefs, or helping to see ourselves a little bit more fuller and complete, and understanding why do I think I'm small? Why do I have to look back and think about, oh, I wish I hadn't have said that. I wish I would have done something different. Those types of things.
Well, I mean, I think it's always a good start to open yourself up to the thought, what if all that feels bad, heavy, weighing you down, if that's thoughts or whatever it may be, what if all that feels bad is in fact not true? Because it's not in alignment with your higher self. So what if your truth is actually that which does feel good, and all the other things are in fact programs, which means they may feel very real and painful, but they can also be resolved. So to open yourself up to the possibility that that which doesn't feel good may in fact not be true, even though it feels very real. And that gets us thinking sometimes, to think, I may feel like I'm this small, but what in fact, even if I can't believe it yet, what if that's not true? And I always use this image. I know I use it all the time, but it just works so well for me. Like if you go into a hospital and you'd see like 20 newborn babies. Now, you're not the parent of any of them. You don't know these babies, but there are 20 babies. Like, you wouldn't start judging them. You wouldn't say that baby's worth more than that one not good enough. You wouldn't do that. You would just see 20 babies in perfection that have just entered this world, and you would say they all deserve to be treated well. They all deserve all the luck in the world, all the beauty in the world. They deserve to be taken care of and loved. So us as grown-ups, we're still those little babies. But now we have all these layers around us. But what part of you would say, I'm not worthy anymore? So that's an image I kind of like to use, because it just brings us back to that beginning of purity, and we are still that.
Yeah. And I understand that, because I use that example as well, as that, when a baby's born, it knows nothing but love.
Yeah.
We're taught to judge. We're taught to dislike. We're taught to believe this is right or this is wrong. We're taught that isn't the truest form of who we are. The truest form of who we are is the day that baby takes its first breath. Yeah. And is in our mom's hands, or and that may not. Please don't criticize me for using that example. It's like, that may not be. There can be some personal opinions on that, but that's the way that I feel. I feel like, and again, there's a lot of stuff to it, but when we actually see our physical form after it's born, that little baby is in its purest form of love. And if you think about it, you can look into a baby's eyes and all they do is just love whoever and whatever. There is no judgment in that little baby's eyes. We're formed and shaped into creating that way of living or being. So you had mentioned a couple of times about depression and that you had some bouts of depression.
Yes.
How did that experience take you on your spiritual journey?
Well, it started in my late teenage years and went into my 20s, and I was always highly sensitive, and I was completely overwhelmed by all that I perceived from my outer world. And I've always felt like an alien. I felt like I don't belong here. And it just kept getting worse and worse that I thought, I can't be here. It's just the pain of existence was really like this black hole just about to swallow me up. And it just got more and more and more painful. The irony was, I mean, I'm going to cut a long story short, but I left school early and I was able to go to University of Arts to study singing, dancing, and acting, which was my absolute dream. And so on the outside, I actually had the life that I desired. But on the inside, like, I got home and I would just burst out in tears and be in complete desperation and pain in a way that's even hard for me to describe. And with that, I felt guilty for feeling that way. And I couldn't understand it. I just couldn't understand why I felt that way. And I was really, really desperate because I had no answers. And everything just felt, I just felt dark and lost and all of that. And I tried out conventional therapy, but that didn't help me. And thank God, I've always been aware of the spiritual realm. So I've always known there's more. I was always aware of my soul. And so I sought out people in the field of energy healing and consciousness and all of this. And I was lucky to find some people, especially one woman that really helped me. And that sparked my entire journey of my, the deepening of my awakening process of what I was really going through, how to shift it. And then at some point, feeling that I would like to work with people as well, guiding them on their path. So it started then, and it just sparked this journey that I've been on since that time.
Good. Yeah. And again, I wanted to emphasize that because I just want people to know that there are alternatives and that you can break these old patterns and cycles and the things that you're going through. So what are some ways that people can live from their heart on a daily basis?
Well, first of all, begin to believe, if you can, that you're worth it. And that when we realize that we actually live in a system, I'm just going to say it, live in a system on this earth that has been designed to keep us small and keep us functioning. This system's not about being, it's about functioning in this system and serving the system. So it's up to us to break free of that while still being here, of course. But to live from your heart means to really listen, as you said before, to your gut, to your heart. Does it feel good or doesn't it? To allow yourself to choose. And I know in some moments that may be difficult, but to really tune in, is this serving me or is it not? For instance, is it going to serve me meeting this person now? Like, I used to do that because I wanted to help everybody. I wanted to please everybody. And I got really drained and burnt out. So I learned to set my boundaries and to really tune in what's good for me. And I get to decide and I get to choose. And to follow that.
It's hard for people.
I know. It can be really hard. Yeah. But it's possible. So it's also a practice. You know, our brain, I think, takes about 3 weeks to be reprogrammed with something. So if we start something new, that's why we fall back so easily, because our brain takes time to create these new, now I'm not a scientist, so I am probably going to say it wrong, but to create new neurological pathways and connections to then bring it into our way of being, that it becomes natural. So that's why it feels so frustrating sometimes in those first weeks, because we really have to stick to it, and it can be challenging, but it can be done. So
yeah, it can. And I think you and I have both proved that it can be done. It can be done. So when we're talking about the sound and vibration, how can we use that to connect to our heart space?
Humming is great. There are books about the science of humming, because if you just hum and make a very gentle sound, and it's not about having to sing beautifully or anything, just the sound of your own voice that vibrates in your heart space. Just imagine humming from your heart And that gentle vibration that you feel in your body, in your voice, that can really calm you down. Humming is incredible for the nervous system. And when we're humming, it's very hard to think at the same time. So try it out. But humming can really bring us into the now moment, center us. And yeah, and that vibration can do magic if we allow ourselves to be present with it.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in the humming. Mm-hmm. And if you hum, if you think about it, well, when I hum, I feel the vibration in my heart space. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's almost like it's clearing that out and helping it to breathe again, mm-hmm. to vibrate again back to that space. So we had talked about you doing a little song for us. Mm-hmm. so
intuitive.
Yeah. Can we jump into that?
Yes, I just have to switch my microphone here because I have a singing mic. So okay. I'm just going to have to switch to that one. So. All right. So should we jump in?
Yes, please.
Okay. So what I'd like to offer, I'm going to sing this intuitively. So for everyone listening, this is going to be a transmission for the group space, no matter when you tune in, to assist you in dropping into your heart space and experiencing your true self, just that core of your being. So just take a few deep breaths and allow yourself to sink into your heart space and imagine the sound moving into your heart and just spreading from there. That's all. And I'll tune into the group field and just take a moment and then just breathe in the sound. Joy, Jara. Jomaraya Jayorai Joyamaya Rohio Jaya Rumayo Joja Jayamo Kuroya Jamaraya Jaya Kurojo Joraya Korajayamo Kurojay Kamaro Ejoraya Joyaraya Korojay Kujoyo Chamero Jayarai, Jorai, Kuro, And then take a deep breath in. Just allow the sound to flow through your heart, through your body, and slowly come back.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah. What a, gosh, it's not bringing tears to my eyes. Again, I can feel it. I can feel it moving out, that old energy. So thank you. Thank you for doing that for all of us and taking your time and spending that with us. I hope that everyone can really truly understand how significant that vibrational healing is, the sound of song, and this voice is, and every single one of us is magnificent. Yes. And we all have the ability to use it to honor that. Mm-hmm. So, Marysol, do you have any parting words or anything that you would like to end this with?
Well, what you just said is truly beautiful. And yes, I'd just like to continue with what you just said, that we're all unique, that we all have our gifts. And the less we compare ourselves to others, I know that's very hard at times, especially in this world, but the more we dare to be ourselves, the more we'll be drawn into our lives that we can be grateful for, and the easier it will get. Because if we keep fighting against who we are, that costs us a lot of energy. So once we break free and allow ourselves to be, that can truly create magic in our lives. So yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. You're all magnificent, and none of us is better than the other. We're all, as Ramdas said, walking each other home. We're all mirrors to each other, and I think we're all here to help us remember together and walk this path together.
Absolutely. Beautiful words. Thank you. So how can people get in touch with you? And also, you do private sessions, correct?
Yes. So okay, I do one-on-ones, I do group sessions, I offer courses, so whatever suits you, I try to have a wide range of offerings that suits everyone. Yes.
Good. Okay, and what's your website?
Marysol, so my first name, .vision, and I have monthly sound healing events, clearings, collaborations with others. With Patrice and Amy, we have some cool things together. I'm creating a course at the moment that will be in June. So everything's on the website. You can just see if anything catches your attention or, sparks something. Follow that.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for being with me today. So I'm so grateful. And for everybody that's watching, thank you so much for taking your time to spend your time with us. And I hope to see you next time.